Hi, this is Jonathan with Sojourners Awake. This is the final chapter of the story of Avernus, in which the Sojourners have left their home of Bonzarel, traveling to the plane of Hell, the first layer, called Avernus. And in this final chapter, they resolve the conflict of the Blood War and balance it in the way they deem fit. As always, with every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction in the world. Every decision we make has an effect on ourselves, our experiences, and the existence of those around us. Consider your steps carefully, Sojourners, for even the footprints you leave behind paves the way for other stories to unfold. And so for now, our story continues. After the restoration of Felthrin Grovelore, the Sojourners left the empty hamlet of Red Ruth, sister to Mad Maggie, and traveled to the Bleeding Citadel. To their fright and horror, they found that hundreds of gnolls were celebrating outside, feasting in demonic revelry. However, the darkness of Avernus's night obscured most of the party, and besides the few bonfires roasting the poor victims of devils and fey wanderers, the Sojourners could not perceive much going on. Nevertheless, their mission to apprehend the sword of Zariel, Angelstrike, still lay in their path. So onward they trekked, deep into the sinking mound of flesh and blood in the underbelly of hell. Along the way, they met up with Wexus, a prisoner devil, and none other than Red Ruth, the old hag. After a short rescue, they finally found the one and only holy location on this plane, the Alabaster Temple. The Alabaster Temple hummed with heavenly melodies, sending each of the Sojourners into a luminous state of mind. With each step, teardrop, and sigh, the music sounded forth. Then suddenly, silence quenched the room and all lights dimmed save one spotlight of an unknown origin shone upon the gleaming sword of Zariel, Angelstrike. The white sword with a clear blade stood proudly embedded within alabaster stone before the Sojourners. The angelic voice echoed again within the chambers after a moment of silence. At the cost of your mortality and afterlife, you will take up the burden of the sword of Zariel, Angelstrike. Who among you will accept this burden? The ground begins to shake with fear, and you sense the floor falling below your feet. The voice calls out again, only this time dimmer and farther away from your hearing. So for now, our story continues. Within this alabaster temple, the earth is shaking. The lights begin to flicker back and forth, yet the spotlight from heaven still shines upon Angelstrike. You all have a moment to look back and forth at each other, keeping in mind that Red Ruth and Wexius the Devil are standing outside the temple. The five of you now gathered around, looking back and forth to make this very crucial decision. And so we begin with Felthrin.
Well, you know that I've lived a long life, and I might not have very many years left. I would be happy and honored to take up this responsibility and allow you all to continue on to pursue the greater good.
No.
Seems like one of us is going to have to commit to this, whether it plays out that way or not. And I think it should be me.
Brother, you have got to go see Serena and hang out with Lycadian. You can't do this. I've been communing with the Morning Lord. I can spend time with him, get to know him.
Questions begin to arise in your mind as you considered the final quest to redeem Zariel, as Talos and Moonglow have aforementioned, with the sword Angel Strike, to deliver Bel as the High Duke of Avernus, to defeat Yenigu, to push back and balance the Blood War. Zarion, you had a moment to hear all this transpiring, being the newest member of the party, keeping in mind the quest and the mission that you had beforehand, and then learning that Zariel is indeed your birth mother. How do you proceed?
If this is going to bring back balance, to everything, all the hell that I've been, everything that I've done, everything, it all still seems like a mystery to me. But if fate has led me back to my birth mother, then maybe I should be the one to make the sacrifice.
The ground shakes. Hey, at this moment, levitation has ceased and your feet are planted upon the ground, the music no longer humming as the bleeding citadel begins to sink further and deeper into hell.
Is there anything that I can think of, some way to uphold our task given here, but not be locked in, bleeding over into the Feywild? And as I guess my contact with the Fey has taught me to be wary of loopholes, now I'm looking for them, trying to find ways to take advantage of the situation in our favor.
For those of you proficient in religion, as well as Hay, as it begins to clamor around for an answer to this question, Celestials are very literal in their contracts. He who takes up the sword, Angel Strike, will forfeit his mortality and final place in the afterlife. Each mortal, upon death, goes into judgment to decide their final retirement place. Angels and devils alike forfeit that right to serve the armies of light and darkness for all eternity. The one who would take up the sword would forfeit their retirement plan as a mortal being and continue to live out in immortality, serving the celestial beings. This is truth.
I mean, since I've been here, I've been serving something. It doesn't seem that far from me, but Zarion, what do you say?
If it gets me out of this place and away from Red Ruth, I'm all for it. I'm ready.
The voice begins to crack and fade. Who? You? Sword of Strike. And it begins to crack and fade as the rocks begin to fall. You've all taken a little too long. Everyone, please make a dexterity saving throw. Bramble, you may do so with advantage since you have not indicated you have taken an action.
1.
Pass.
14.
Both fail. 22 points of damage to Hay and Zarion. The rocks begin to fall and pin you to the ground, knocking you aside. You are prone, facing flat on the ground. You hear Red Ruth's voice, of all people.
Well, don't stand there around forever. We've got to get out of here. This place is going to blow and be sucked into Avernus and gods know, probably the abyss. Hurry if you value your lives.
She begins to pull the devil, and surprisingly, the devil says, Never do leave a devil or man behind in battle. He begins to step into the temple, urging you to come along quickly. The temple itself is now collapsing. Go ahead, Hay.
Where is the sword in relation to me?
Everything's within 5 feet.
I cast Mage Hand and grab the sword with the hand.
Nothing happens. Nothing.
When the hand passes through it, I'm just going to grab the sword.
Hey?
Yep.
Okay. Hey.
Let me back that up just a moment. I look around at the faces of companions that have been with me from the beginning. I'm looking at Felthrin, and I just think nobody should have to make this choice. And so I grab the sword.
Out of the rubble, Hay seizing the moment of distraction. You push past your pal, your buddy, Felthrin. Felthrin, you spin around doing a double flip, a double spin, not expecting Hay to go directly for this angelic sword. And moments before, as the alabaster temple begins crumbling around, the mage hand slips straight through, but beyond that, Hay's hands grab the hilt.
Hey, what are you doing? No, it can't be you.
Hay, you pull the sword out and it comes out seamlessly. The voice ceases and the light dims, save for the clear light that is on the sword. You have a second to respond, Felthrin.
What have you done?
You need to live.
Hay, your veins begin to fill up with light.
Well, that looks good on you. Let's get out of here.
Your eyes begin to glow bright.
Okay, maybe this is a good choice.
Your height doubles in size. Muscles begin to rip from your frail body. Your clothes tear off, revealing a large purple robe that you are now gowned in. Whatever hair you had before is replaced with shock white locks of thick hair beaming forth lightning. Your voice begins to hum as you breathe silently to yourself, and a celestial language comes forth from you as Angel Strike begins to speak through you, for that is now your name, Angel Strike. As a solar, as a cherubim, champion, guardian of Arcadia, you are now the guardian of Arcadia. Your memories of your former life exist but a compartment in your mind, safely located for you to extract as simply a scrapbook of memories. And your new consciousness as an immortal being ascends. Instantly you feel a connection to Arcadia, and simultaneously an aversion to this place, this unholy realm. Instantly you know the location of Talos and Moonglow and Zariel, for you are now a member of the Order of the Balance. Your name, Angel Strike, comes to you. The rest of you see this large hulking being, twice the size of Hay. And then for a moment, you see those familiar black eyes one last time. Felthrin.
Hey, you. You look like Lycaon. What? I don't understand, but I like it.
Angel Strike, you are very conscious of your mission here to deliver the sword to Zariel and bring her back into the Order of the Balance. You understand that you must be willing to give your life for doing such a thing, and then return home to Arcadia to receive your next assignment. You are very conscious that angels begin their existence upon choice of free will. Despite your former life, you have very faint memories of who you once were, and no time to access all of them. How do you respond?
I stare blankly at Felthrin. You've said some words, and they don't really seem to make sense to me. I can tell you're directing them at me, but that's about it. So I just turn and I guess I start moving, whatever that means, in the direction of where I think Zariel is. I guess this room full of people and the situation no longer seems important to me. And driven by this greater purpose, I just start, I don't know if it's floating or walking or whatever.
At that moment, your large seraphim wings unfurl.
6 of them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Huge wings begin to unfurl. And as that happens, Bramble, a small little cloak floats to the ground and lands at your feet. What once was the cloak of Hay, the last remaining item of his mortality.
I pick it up and put it in a bag. Even as I'm like, Bramble has fallen to a knee at this sight. And so as he turns and begins to move away, and seeing the robe fall, he kind of snaps out of it a bit, picks up the robe, stands up, and says, looks like he knows where he's going. Guess we should follow him.
The ground quakes again as rocks and the ceiling of the temple begin to crumble and collapse. The floor begins to crack and separate, and a strong howling wind blows through the temple. Garandan, how do you proceed?
That guy do a lot of weird things, but this is the weirdest. And then I stop, but yeah, let's follow him.
As you move, the ground is moving underneath your feet. This is a harrowing scene as you run through and dodge boulders and rocks as this temple begins to sink into the ground. The swamp begins to stick around your feet and move. This is the time of urgency and expediency as you press your luck to get out of the Bleeding Citadel before you are sucked into the bowels of Avernus. Let us begin with Zerion, as I imagine you are once seeing Hay take the sword, pressed as Red Ruth and Wexius urge you to leave the temple. You are first in line. How are you pursuing and making sure that you get out of the temple alive?
Hay's transformation looks completely different from before.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that Angel Strike had that kind of power. While we are running, trying to find our way through, I am going to conjure elementals to help deal with any particular boulders that may get in our way.
Okay, interesting. As you burn this spell slot, these elemental creatures of rock, fire, wind, and water begin guarding you, pressing on and clearing a path in front of you, seemingly at your command. Red Ruth says, "Oh, well, you've learned a trick or two since our last encounter. Ooh, you've grown." She begins to squeeze your arm full of muscles and says, "I like the magic moving through you. Perhaps we could still meet up again sometime?"
No, get away from me.
Wexius just pressing forward, saying, "I agree. Let us take advantage of his magic and get out of here as soon as possible." Felthrin, you are right behind Zerion. How are you ensuring you make it through?
Felthrin is going to try to match the steps of Zerion, even though his legs are a little shorter. So he's kind of hopping from footprint to footprint, and then looking to see if there's any debris in the way that, or even remotely in the way that he can kind of push off to the left or to the right to clear the path a little bit more for the guys behind me.
Very well. So you begin to use your strength as you push boulders and clear the way. The elemental's doing far more strength than you can do, but there's still a little bit of rubble that you take advantage of, clear the path. Bramble, you are next in line. How are you ensuring to get out of here alive?
Bramble's trusting his feet. This kind of swampy landscape is not great, but he's trusting his instincts, I guess, to deliver him. And he'll even try to get around to the lead to try to pick a good path even ahead of the elementals.
So far, Bramble being the only one to guess that the most difficult thing about this passageway is the Bleeding Citadel's ground becoming muckier and swampier. Therefore, Zerion and Felthrin, though you move the boulders, you find your feet sinking deeper and deeper into the swamp. Bramble, however, takes the high ground, begins climbing, pushing past the tunnels and avoiding the swampy terrain. Garandan, you have the advantage of witnessing your friend's success. So therefore, how do you proceed to ensure you get out of here alive?
So yeah, Garandan's got his shield above his head just in case something falls on it. And he did see Bramble go, so he was definitely following him that way. But then he sees his friends sinking into the water, and so he will cast that water walk again just so that they can get up and out. And so yeah, just a piece of cork sprinkling, and he says, come on guys, hurry up, let's get out of here.
Felthrin, you're waist deep now in this swamp as you're like pushing forward, and all of a sudden your body becomes incredibly buoyant as you bob to the surface, nearly popping out like a cork. So if everyone would go ahead and roll an athletics check. Bramble, you can do acrobatics with advantage.
Do you want me to roll too?
No, Mr. Angel. You are moving through this place like knife through butter.
It rolled off a natural 20 to an 8, so I got a 9.
Okay, that is a fail.
17.
That is a save. Good. And what did you get, Bramble? You rolled high.
22.
Okay, so Garandan, you are the one. As you cast Water Walk right before you finish, what ends up happening is you step into a cloud of flies. This cloud of flies begins stinking around you, swirling and swarming. If you would also make a Constitution save.
14.
14 is success. You take 3 acid damage as these flies begin blistering all around you.
Is this abyssal acid or regular acid? Sorry.
Nice throwback. It is actually at the top of your turn. It continues to go until you find a cure for this. They follow you around, blistering your skin. However, you're able to make it out, with the exception of Garandan, who suffered the injury. Angel Strike. You tear through the sides of this bleeding citadel scab into the plains of Avernus. How do you do so?
As I move forward, I hold the sword up in front of me and it begins to glow. And as the light reaches a blinding, where even if you closed your eyes, it would still hurt to look in that direction. And then there's just there's a popping sound, and reality splits, showing a portal into Avernus.
Tearing through the scab, you walk through, and as your celestial feet hit the ground, you see the hordes of Yenigu have now surrounded this bonfire, and a large, bloated slug lay outside the camp, slinking towards the citadel, as if it is about to give birth to the hordes of the abyss, destined to swarm the Stygian docks, to finally overwhelm the armies of Avernus. You see a small red imp standing beside, scribing feverishly the results and the outcome of this last stand. Zarion, you see that there is a hole of celestial power that is tearing through the scab that was once this mound. And there is also the tunnel that leads out in the most natural way. So with these 2 options in mind, which way do you take? Do you continue on the path through the tunnel in the natural form as it slowly begins to sink 5 foot, 3 foot, 3.5 feet? Or do you follow the celestial being through the portal?
I will follow the celestial being through the portal.
Okay.
He is trying to revive my mother, so I'm going to follow him all the way through until he's able to accomplish so, probably aiding him as well.
Red Ruth and Wesios clearly delineate from that path, and she just hollers back to you, "Don't think that's a good idea!" "Oh, whatever. He was always a wanderer." Felthrin.
Oh, I'm going to follow Angel Strike.
Bramble.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Bramble's gonna he's gonna go on the path, I guess.
I thought he might.
The natural path.
I thought he might. Garandan.
Garandan's just swatting at flies, so he doesn't know where he's going. He's like sweeping left and right. So guess I'll roll a d4 on an odd. I'll go through the I go in through the portal.
Okay. Those of you who go through the portal take 8 points of damage. Please describe so. Bramble, the ground begins to slowly sink, and the tunnel is like caving in very small, even for your henfolk stature. And like Indiana Jones, you have a moment to make a decision, go all the way through. I think that's going to be a dexterity save, though. Yeah.
He doesn't feel any doubt in his capabilities.
Roll a dex save.
19 on the die plus 11 is 30.
Okay, I was thinking 17. So you just slide right through, and at last minute, the last of the bleeding citadel just burps and it spits you out into the plains of Avernus. You go tumbling through, and the crater depressing into the ground is finally left. Zarion, Felthrin, and Garandan, how do you take that radiant damage of 7 as you tear through the portal?
Well, Felthrin, thinking that Angel Strike had cleared the path for us, forgot that Angel Strike is twice as tall as he is and already had much longer legs. So as Felthran's trying to go through the gap, he realizes that the bottom of this scab that was split is still probably 2 feet tall. And there's no way for him to get through it without rubbing his legs on it. And he gets that kind of burning, radiant pain searing through his legs as he's trying to follow.
Zerion.
What I experienced is, as I walk through, I feel nothing but pins and needles attack my outsides of my entire body. I cross my arms and just push on through. Or cross my arms on my face to push on through.
Garandan.
Garandan lands and realizes all the flies are gone, except for one on the end of his nose, and so he casts a cantrip, Sacred Flame, and totally misses and singes his nose and takes the damage.
Garandan lastly bursting through. Bramble, you're, by definition, a little split from the party. Roll a d4 for me.
1.
You land on the north side. Before you, the beast of butchery, Yinagu, the demon lord, a towering 18-foot gnoll with a large cat o' nine tails at his hand. Horrible long razor-sharp claws, scratching an open mouth, dripping with blood of the Feywild, blood of celestials, blood of devils, and blood of anything that he could get his hands on, for he is the hunter. He stands there heaving and sighing over his precious pet, this large slug, writhing with demons, ready to be burst forth and birthed into this land. Surrounding him are swarms of gnolls that have been transported here. Their bodies have burst open to release more of their kind. The bonfires are all but almost out, some of them still flickering with unholy light. And the creatures that Yinagu has burst forth, the maw demons, these spider-like skittering creatures moving 80 miles an hour, zipping across the plains, seeking something to eat. Oh yes, you remember them, for these were the creatures that threatened Bonsaro. These were the creatures that Smiler warned you of. This was the new moon event that was spoken of. And it suddenly becomes aware to you that now it has been just simply 2 days since you left Bonsaro. No sign of Zariel, no sign of Mad Maggie. Just the Demon Lord ready to launch his final attack. Vol arrived here, and he begins to sniff in the wind.
He's here. Felthran is here. I smell his rotten body. And he's brought visitors. He's brought unwary travelers. Seek them out. Find them. Bring them alive. And bring the tiefling for trade.
He begins to yip and yap, and the gnolls begin to spread out. Everyone, please roll initiative.
He's here. Find them.
Okay, so Felthran's gonna go first. It's quite a descent. You see a small ravine 25 foot down. The gnolls begin scouring that ravine, searching out for these human creatures that are left alive, these mortal beings, not to mention the strong, noxious presence of the angel. There's a moment of stillness you have to prepare before the scene gets incredibly violent. You can sense the tension building up. Felthrin, how do you proceed?
Can they see us from down there?
No.
Okay. Yinagu can't see us either.
Can't see you, but you can tell he smells you. He called your name.
Yeah, he did.
He is once again knocking at your door.
Yep. Felthrin's not a big fan. So Felthrin is going to... Does he see Bramble?
Yes.
All right. So Felthrin is going to say, guys, let's meet up with Bramble. And then he's going to do his full move. He's going to double move, I guess, basically, just to get over here. He's going to still try to stay hidden by the edge of the ravine, but he wants to get up here near Bramble, and then try to take a little bit of cover, or, be as hidden as he can. He's still not 100% sure that he's ready to go face off with Yinagu, with a little bit of fear in him.
Okay, with no action, go ahead and make a stealth check.
Well, it's not going to make much difference. I rolled a 5.
Bramble, your turn. Felthrin comes clanking up to you. He smells like a dwarf.
Well, we can try. When we get all together, we can try teleporting across this ravine. There's some risk, but it might save us some trouble if we have to go for Yinagu. Otherwise, Banks! Professor Banks!
He hears you. He looks around a little bit. I say, someone call my... Oh, hello! Appears in front of you. Hello, Bramble. How are you doing, sir? Well, you look a little bit different now. I see you. I'm sorry. Over here is a secret engagement. How can I be of assistance?
If you look over the edge, you'll see we need to be quiet.
Oh, yes. I'm here covering the story of Yinagu. I've been given an all-access pass, of course. But what are you doing here?
Well, we're going to make it interesting.
Excellent. I shall get my extra quick quiver of pens and quills and jot down your expediencies.
Could you let Bell know that we're here?
But of course, send an alarm out to Bell, get a little scrying going on. I'm sure he'd like to see the exploits. Bell shall be made notice of your appearance. Pronto. Yeah, he begins to scribble down and pull out this extra special pad, and you see that he sends a note in Infernal that you can read. And just as he says, former Duke of Arvernus, Bell, you might want to turn into the channel. It's about to get interesting, as the Sojourners have returned from the Bleeding Citadel. Small little light shines in the sky, looking like an eyeball staring into the scene. It blinks once or twice and turns in your direction. Next up in the initiative, Zarion, how would you like to proceed?
I want to ask Professor Banks if I can get 4,000 gold coins from him.
How much?
4,000.
That would be quite a loan. Might I have no problem delivering it. Might I ask what it's for?
Reasons, but I am willing to compensate you with this little voucher that I found on my way here.
Ah, excellent. A tour of the old city of Vacatino. This would be very interesting to give to someone. Let's say 4,000 plus the voucher. Absolutely. It's an even trade. Easy enough.
Thank you. This will come in handy.
All right.
Full of EU. Spelled IOU.
The voucher disappears from your sight, goes into his ethereal pocket, and you have 4,000 gold added to your account.
All right. Is that considered an action or no?
That was pretty hefty of a transaction. I might allow a small minor action depending on what you have planned.
Can I cast Bark Skin?
You can cast Bark Skin, yeah.
Bark Skin on everyone.
Okay, if your armor class was not 16, it is now before. I'm not sure if that's going to affect anyone. The Solar begins to grow this large bark-like tissue on his illuminating pale alabaster skin. It's quite a sight. Next up, speaking of the Solar, Angel Strike. How do you proceed?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if this change has affected my abilities in any way. That's the first thing I need to understand.
And it has not affected your abilities. You are still playing the character sheet of Hay,
Okay.
but as a solar mindset. And at this point, as you are standing around and seeing all these creatures tear through your portal, especially the first one, Felthrin, you seem to have a memory of him, a fraction of a memory. You feel that camaraderie as if you worked together before, but details are completely eluding your mind to grasp. Nevertheless, you are highly intelligent, highly capable, and powerful being.
Would I be able to move across that chasm without falling down? So
Easy
basically,
enough.
float across. Yeah. I'm going to then move. And these are 5-foot squares, I take it.
Your large 6 wings unfurl behind you.
I am basically trying to head over to the group of little guys on the far side. Yeah, I guess as I come across, wings, furled out to fill the sky, and I just gesture with the sword hand toward the group and cast Eldritch Blast.
You have a plus 14 to hit.
That's new.
How does that feel?
That feels unusual. 30, 31, 20, and 21.
34 points of damage. It weakens the horde, and these large skittering creatures just experience this blast of energy. So these 4 swarms of maw demons begin to reduce in size and number. Nevertheless, and this angel, which they did not expect, begins just blasting this celestial energy. For it is no longer energy from the Feywild. It is lightning from Arcadia. You've definitely made an opening statement. With that being said, at the bottom of the round, Garandan, how would you like to proceed?
So when Garandan came through the portal and after he cleared his head, he felt that connection to the celestial being that is Angel Strike, and his eyes have kind of glazed over. And the reason he's last in initiative is because he started summoning something from the celestial realm to counteract with the Angel Strike. And so you start seeing a coatl slowly coalesce around him. And it rolled a 17 on its initiative, but it does take a minute. So if you want to give me a few rounds out, that's fine too. Okay. So that's what he's doing. He's just zoned out, looking at this celestial being flying across the valley, and is just in touch with that realm.
Begin to see this form as you channel the energy from a holy place. This bird, long-necked bird with radiant rainbow colors, iridescently glowing from the light of heaven. This has indeed become a holy war. Top of the round. Okay, the Maw Demons sense this angel, and they're going to use all their movement. They're going to take a flying leap towards the creature that is this holy angel. They jump in the air. Flying spiders begin to try to latch on to your body. Covered in bark skin, they tear and they claw, and they bite and they scrape. So you need to make 4 Constitution saving throws as these hordes of creatures begin swarming all around you. You are going for a 15.
Okay, the first one is a fail with 11. Second one is a save. Third one is a save. And 2 fails, 2 saves.
72 points of damage you take.
Is that all?
They fall to the ground, unable to hold on to your skin. They descend one by one, falling into the ravine. 25 feet into the ravine, all of the forces of Yinagu are now in this valley. The gnolls begin moving towards. You hear Yinagu's voice say, "He's here!" And he points towards the ravine, and like a spotlight, darkness begins to fill up all around you. The gnolls begin to use their movement, and they're climbing up the ravine, seeking your demise. 2 of them are going to take a shot at you, Felthrin. 12 and a 16. Their arrows and their javelins spring across. At the last minute, you look over the ravine, and an arrow flies by your head, nearly nicking you in the eyebrow. You pull back, and you have a moment to respond.
Felthrin's going to ready in action to, if any of them get within range of his hammer, he's going to drop it on them.
They're coming towards you.
All right.
Yinagu.
Whoever's close, yeah.
All right, you're next up, but Yinagu is going to take his time. The Croatoic begins to birth, and you see the small little creature begin to leave. More maw demons begin to emanate and be birthed out of the Croatoic. Yinagu says,
Come tonight, my fiends. We will feast on the flesh of devil, fey, and dwarf.
Yinagu is then going to teleport, and you begin to smell wet dog. Slobber drips down your back, Bramble. The sweat and the stink. Garandan, you're the only one that sees the tail end of Yinagu, for his back is turned towards you. Professor Banks says, oh my, it indeed has got interesting. I will take a more... And he disappears out of sight in a safer approach. Beltherin, with Knowles pressing up on the front side, Yinagu breathing down your back. How do you proceed?
The gnolls aren't quite to him coming up on the other thing yet?
No, they look like about 20, I'm going to say 15 feet away. They're climbing on the wall right now.
All right. Felthran's instincts are going to kick in, and he's going to whirl around on Yinagu. And he's going to say, not this time.
And we've been waiting for this. Felthran Grovelor stands off against the Demon Lord. It finally comes to this. You're going for 20.
We've got a 25. We have a 22. And then we have a 15. So the 25 is good for 15 points of bludgeoning and 1 point of lightning. And the second one is good for 12 points of bludgeoning and 2 points of lightning. And he's not going to waste any time. He's going to use an action surge to do it again. Yeah, 17 misses, and then I've got 2 hits. So the 2 hits are going to be 12 bludgeoning, 2 lightning, and 14 bludgeoning, 3 lightning. And then he's going to goad him and say, this is you and me, for an extra 5 points of damage.
Okay. So 41 and 30. 71 points of damage Felthran delivers as lightning just crashes down, slamming into the kneecaps of this Demon Lord. The Demon Lord just grips tight his flail, grins extra wide as his jaws just creak all across his face, nearly separating his head in half. He says, yes, but there is only me. And we go to Bramble.
Bramble is also going to turn around and approach Yinagu here. It's going to take the step closer to Yinagu and pull out Queen's Favor. And he's going to load in a spell. Next time he's going to load in a silver-tipped bolt. Right now he doesn't have that ready to go. So with Queen's Favor, he is going to use acid damage. Gonna tap the rune so a faint green light appears across the blade. That is 19. All right. So even though he took a slash with Queen's Favor, and even though he missed, he sees a weakness, and so he's going to call out left kneecap and use the bonus action help that he gets as a rogue mastermind. So the next attack has advantage.
Zerion, you hear Bramble call out a weakness. You have advantage on this attack, whatever you do.
Do I still have my elementals with me?
Ooh, we forgot about them. Yes, you do. How many did you conjure?
All of them. That's each element.
The entire play. Everybody, come on, all people, let's go. You conjured 1 elemental, challenge rating 2, because that's going to be a little bit easier to do in the initiative. So, what elementals is this? Fire? This water? Wind?
This one's fire.
Okay.
Now, is he already summoned, or do I have to?
Yeah, he's with you. He's with you. So he has got armor class of 13. He's got 102 hit points. Yeah, awesome. Forgot about him.
All right. I'm sending him against Yinagu to aim for that weak spot where Bramble just called out.
Nice. Okay, he gets an attack. He gets 2 touch attacks. So you're going to do 2 d20s plus 6. You're going for a 20. Fire just lights up as this fist towers down on this kneecap, and Yinagu roars in pain. That's going to be a total of 26 points of damage to Yinagu. The elemental moves into melee. Zerion, that elemental acts on its own initiative, so you still have an action.
Then I am going, since we're fighting an army here, I'm going to prepare to cast Storm of Vengeance. That was the money was for.
Nice. A churning storm cloud forms centered where you can see, spreading to a radius of 360 feet. Lightning flashes, thunder booms, and a strong wind blows through. A raging hurricane fills up this valley. Each creature under the cloud must make a Constitution saving throw. And subsequently, every round, something else happens. So, this affects anyone in that area. Considering the entire map, it's going to be 360 feet. Where are you going to center that storm?
Yeah, it affects my own teammates. I'm going to set it just to where that slug is about to burst the army. Because what I want to do is keep them from jumping in, causing even more trouble while we deal with Yinagu.
Yeah. The storm begins to swirl. The wind, the rain, nothing that Avernus has seen before, much less these abyssal creatures. And it begins to center right on the beloved pet of Yinagu.
I'm going to move.
You going into the storm?
I can see the light from me, like a purplish glow. And it's illuminating the clouds as I surge into them. And then I reach into a pouch at my belt, pull out some fistful of white granules, and I throw it in the direction of the slug, and then point my sword again. I'm casting Banishment at the slug thing, and it needs to make a charisma saving throw. Okay, so that's a 21 then.
Oh my gosh.
That's the guy with the cheat codes. Your numbers are ridiculous. And I love it.
Banishment. Okay.
I'm hoping that slugs are not
They
particular.
do not make it.
Okay.
This slug doesn't make it. No, so please proceed.
All right. Again, with a ripping sound, the earth beneath it opens up, and it's just sucked right down into the ground. And the target is banished to a harmless demiplane. So basically, it's rendered incapacitated and remains there until the spell ends. So I've got a minute on this spell for it to be active, but that should reduce the amount of escargot, should remove the amount of forces it's able to add to the fight.
Yinagu definitely takes one of his legend actions, and he makes a savage attack and takes a bite attack against each creature. Bramble, 20. Zerion, 18 plus 16. I think that's a hit. That's disadvantage. Garandan, cocked. It's cocked on a natural 20, so I will reroll. 7 plus 16, 23 on Felthrin.
Can I
Okay.
use my elemental to guard while he's attacking?
No,
Oh,
they are
okay.
not good for that. This elemental creature is nearly wild, barely able to even comprehend your leadership. The bite attack, it's going to be 14 damage to each of you in retaliation for Hay banishing his beloved pet. And Garandan, you watch as Yinagu just instinctively snaps in your direction, but he cannot hit you with his 10-foot bite. You're at the bottom. All right, so Garandan, it's now your turn. The Quaddle is still coalescing, and it's taking its time. It has not recently arrived just yet, but you may proceed.
Okay, so even though I'm summoning that, I can do a little action.
Yeah, I think you're just summoning it, so it's just happening. I think it just takes a while.
Then yeah, I'm just I saw Hay, the Angel Strike, take the hits, and he's just throwing out a heal, 70 points of damage.
Go for it.
So yeah, he just he sees Hay moving across and got rid of the Crocoteur or whatever it was, and he sees the cuts and he thinks that's just wrong on a celestial being to have scrapes and things tarnishing its wings. So he just shines his shield, uses the light of the suns just to heal those wounds.
Hey, you currently have a flying speed. You have a flying speed, so at the bottom of the round, the Maw Demons are all going to move through the storm. However, that Storm of Vengeance, they have to make a con save. 2d6 thunder damage. The storm begins to tear apart quite a few of these creatures as Maw Demons begin to move through the storm, slowed by it, completely deafened to their master's wishes. However, some of them begin to fall down and descend into small piles of goo as lightning strikes them and thunder knocks them to the ground. They are still looking like they're poised for attack, and they begin to stretch out their legs, getting ready to jump and ambush Hay, this solar energy that's moving and banishing their beloved mother. The gnolls begin to move forward and they find themselves top. You are all surrounded. Each of you, Zarion, you get 2. The gnolls deliver their attack against Bramble at a 25. Felthrin, a 13. And Zarion, a 24. Bramble, you take 14 points of damage. Zarion, you get hit twice for 28 points of damage. These gnolls yip and slobber, swinging their swords and their spears, stabbing into you, making you duck and weave, exhausting you in combat. The Maw Demons begin, y'all are drawing all the attention. They begin to climb up the hill. They're not able to quite make it, but you can tell they're all surrounding at this point. And at the bottom of the round, the Crocoteur births no more creatures. Hey, is there any save required for that? Or as long as you maintain concentration, the creature is banished. Am I correct?
It is banished for the minute.
Entering the top of round 3, so that's 2 rounds of banishment, or 1 round of banishment. Professor Banks continues to scribe along. The storm began to blow. As Zarion channeled the energy of the elemental planes, Yenigu took his stand. And at the bottom of the round, Yenigu's making his attack. He's going to go for Zarion. Ooh, what? 18 to hit. A natural 1 and a 20. You must succeed on a Constitution saving throw.
All right. 16.
Oh man, you had to go for a 17.
Oh.
This last flail slaps you in the back, and you feel the spines hit you feel the pricks hit your spine and seize your body up. You are paralyzed until the end, or until Yenigu's next turn. The Maw Demons have took their turn. The Quaddle begins to, concentration, thank you. You need to do another Constitution save. It's going to be a 19. You have to go for a 19 to make concentration on the storm.
All right. That's 20.
Barely making it. Zarion, please take some narrative liberty and describe how you're able to, despite being completely lost of all feeling, how do you maintain power over this hurricane?
I don't have control over my body, but I still have control over my mind. I close my eyes and I focus real hard on the storm, trying to keep it alive.
Wonderful. At the top of the round, Felthrin, surrounded on all sides. How do you proceed?
Yeah, Felthrin doesn't notice any of the little guys. He's just, and he raises his hammer up, and you see it start to glow even brighter than it has been, and he is going to swing even harder at Yenigu. Little high risk, high reward here. I'm going to use my superiority dice to make it hit, and it does because I just needed a 1 on it. The first one is going to be 20 points of bludgeoning and 5 points of lightning. The second one is going to be a hit, and that is 20 points of bludgeoning and 3 points of lightning. And then the third one was a natural 1.
So 48 points of damage. He's going to do his legendary reaction, swat you away and say, "Get out of here, you dirty little fly." If you would please make a strength saving throw. He's going to try and knock you off the cliff.
16.
24. Felthrin. 5. 10.
You know what? I might as well use it.
15.
No, I can't use it. I have to roll. I'll roll it. I need a natural 20 to stay up. Try. Why not? Didn't work.
This flail finally hits you, and because you're on a cliff, you fall down 25 feet. You do take 2d6, hits the ground, and you land flat on your back in the middle of this ravine, ever so close to the hurricane that is howling in your ears. It doesn't, actually.
Nice.
No. Oh, wait. No, it's an attack. I'm sorry. It is an attack.
Yeah.
Oh, he has to attack you. Excuse me. Yeah, 30. He attacks you. You do take another 15 points of bludgeoning damage.
All right.
You had to ask.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, man, that's a weak action. I was like, oh yeah, he's supposed to take damage too. Yenigu seems done with you. Felthrin, you're done with your turn. Bramble, you're next, alone, surrounded by these gnolls, and Yenigu, your fighter, now fallen upon the floor of the cliffside.
Bramble will fight on. He will use his Hinfolk nimbleness to slide underneath Yenigu's legs to get to the south side of him. So we will be leaving the area of control of one gnoll. But while he's running under, he will take a slice with Queen's Favor and Acid. Oh my goodness, that's another 19. All right, I'm going to use my level 20 feet to make it hit. It's a hit.
It's a hit.
So that's
Zarion still within 5 feet.
excellent. That's 10 points of slashing and 5 points of acid damage, plus another 30 points of slashing for sneak attack. So in total, 48.
Oh my gosh.
Nice. Covered in guts.
You tear through the underbelly of Yenigu, just sliding back and forth, and a spear from a nearby knoll just continues moving alongside with you and sticks in the ground. You hold tight to that spear and do a double spin around the other side of the Yenigu. You look over and you see Garandan just holding out both arms, meditating, channeling the light of Lathander, the power of Moradin, a small little bird-like creature forming at his side. Anything with your movement?
I think that just about covers his movement, but he will take the glove of firing and shoot an exploding round at these maw demons that are making their way across.
Wonderful. Go ahead.
That's there's a good roll. That's a 31 to hit.
Indeed, it does. Threshold is 20 damage.
Okay. Where's my other D4? It is 10 points of damage from the shot, from the bolt itself, and then there's an explosion that occurs. That does another 7 points.
Ooh. So this maw demon takes one to the chest and continues charging forward, and it blasts off. His leg just flies through the area, but he continues to move towards the elemental creature, and towards Garandan, as you can see this occurring. Next up, the Coatl begins to take form. It looks to you, and in a celestial voice, just simply says, "You've called me out of a rest and retirement. I am old, withered, and wise. How may I service you in your time of need, Holy One?"
Please, bless my friend. And he casts Bless on Zarion, Bramble, and himself.
The Coatl just simply sits back and calls out like a bird, singing forth the song of heaven. And each of you get a d4 to your rolls.
Yeah, attacks or saving throws.
That is my name. Blessings. Zarion, it's your turn. Paralyzed until the end of Yenigu's next turn. So we'll have to skip you for this moment.
I still have to do the Constitution saving throw for the storm?
Only if you take damage.
Okay.
Next up, Hay. The Solar, you find yourself alone, floating over this area, ever so close to the storm that's brewing. The Krokatoak is still banished. What would you like to do?
Moving down, and then I'm gonna just unleash with another barrage of Eldritch Blast against the 4. Well, I'll start with the 34 and just work my way down.
Yes, the 4 swarms. Okay, so what happens is, as a collection of damage, this one completely falls apart. The exploding round finally goes off, and you watch as the rest of this creature just splatters into oblivion. 60 points of damage to the second swarm completely blasts it with holy energy. Only 2 more swarms are going towards Garandan.
Right on.
Yes, the fire elemental will make its attack. It continues just to attack and rage with 2 touches. I'm going to go ahead and roll for him, +6. That's a natural 1 and a 13 against Yenigu. Nothing happens. But he stands there as a hulking giant of fire. Yenigu does take another 5 points of damage from the flames that lick up around him, as the elemental's touch has not dissipated. It is now Garandan's turn.
So Garandan, done with his meditation, seeing this being giving him strength from his celestial parents, he is going to pull out his Shield of the Morning Lord and just start banging on it with his warhammer and marching towards the evil. And he is going to channel his divinity and let out a 30-foot blast of 28 damage radiant. If he could do a Constitution saving throw, and then he's going to be shining the sun into Yenigu's eyes to blind him as well.
Yenigu sees you coming, takes one hand, pops out his eye, takes out his other, pops out of his eye, and throws it at you, and then begins to munch on the other eyeball like an apple. Laughs as he makes his legendary save. And he makes his save on the Constitution saving throw.
So takes half, 14 radiant. And it's a 30, as Garandan moved 5 feet, everyone should be in a 35-foot radius to get blasted with that too.
Okay, and that's all hostiles, I assume?
All hostiles, yes.
So they're all going to make their con saves. They're going to get a +5, 25, 11, and a 7.
So 19 was the number.
Okay, so how much damage did they take?
28 radiant.
These swarms, this army, just channel forth these 4 platoons. One of them just takes the brunt. The other ones, they continue to move forward, and you're just whittling down them, just chipping away at their forces. Knolls begin falling to the left and to the right. Still more pour forth. Hundreds of them swarm towards you. The Maw Demons must also make that save, I believe. It's a 19 and a 12. Again, the Maw Demons just fall off to the side, splattering into goo. Hey, as a solar energy, you watch and turn and see these Maw Demons raining like sludge down the side of this cliff, a black waterfall. Felthrin, you begin to hear the sound. I forgot about you. They just follow you up on all sides, and they slowly make their approach, now so confident that they have found one dwarf lying unconscious on the ground, ready to make their attack next turn.
Am I unconscious?
They think you are.
Oh, okay.
They've moved out of the storm attack as they are pushing past this area, and the storm has not moved. The Krokatoak, however, cannot sense the presence of that storm as it is banished. All the action is over here. The Maw Demons move forward. Garandan, they move towards you. 2 Maw Demons attack. You must make 2 Constitution saving throws. You're going for a 15.
So I picked up the ability Warcaster with my improvement, so I get advantage on that as well. On my ability score when I went to 18.
Okay.
So I got a natural 20.
Save.
And I got a 17.
So 24 damage as they begin tearing around you. Hundreds of creatures just moving to your right and left, and you're just batting them off to the best of your ability. The Gnolls are going to attack. Ooh. Bramble 1's going to move through Yenigu towards you. Oof. Zarion, you are not in a good spot. Okay, a 13, a 7. Oh, wait, you're paralyzed.
Not anymore, right?
At the end of Yenigu's turn. They go before Yenigu.
Wow.
Okay. I think everything's a critical hit on you. You're incapacitated. All attacks have advantage. Everything is a critical hit if it's within 5 feet of you. 3 critical hits.
I can't.
Hold on. You can't. Yes.
I'm not gonna make that.
Okay. Here's what happens. Sensing you just stand there frozen, your mind is very much awake. These gnolls just rub their chops, sensing that this precious creature, this tiefling. And then you hear Yenigu's voice say, "He is not for eating. He is for trade. Make sure he doesn't get dismembered." The gnoll looks back at Yenigu and says in Abyssal, "Would we possibly eat the organs he doesn't need? He needs all of his organs for the witch. She wants him back. It was part of the deal." The gnolls get very upset, and nevertheless, they slowly approach you with like blunt knives and crude whips, and they do a total of 60 damage to you. So at 60 damage, how are you doing, Zarion?
That's too much. I took a lot of damage in the previous round.
So you're unconscious. You went to 0?
Went to 0, yes.
Okay. They begin to bag your body up. So the storm fades. The hurricane stops. I think the elemental would disappear. Patrick? Yep. Okay, the elemental disappears. And he says, "Goodbye," disappearing into this portal of fire. Zarion, you begin to be bound, gagged, and tied, hog-tied, ready for the spit. Yenigu turns his attention away from Zarion, gets ready to attack Garandan. "You look like you need a beating." Yenigu's going to make his flail attack.
It still has disadvantage, but I don't think it matters for anybody but me.
The goading is still disadvantage.
Yeah, I think so.
I got plus 16, and I got 17 AC. So, I mean,
Oh yeah. I think he can only get natural ones, so
I'm saving throw on there, so I apologize.
that's okay. So he's gonna take that. He's gonna do his legendary resistance, and he's gonna say, "He, the dwarf is of no mind. This one will take one." So 23, 26. Yeah, that hits. Yeah, 3 hits. So 3 flail attacks, 45 points of bludgeoning damage.
okay, so how does that break down? 15, 15, 15?
Yep.
So I've just got to roll over a 10 for my concentration. And yeah, I'm good.
Having reduced a creature to 0 hit points, the gnolls all charge out, and they all get to make another attack. The bloodthirstiness takes forward, and Yenigu is going to make an extra attack against Bramble.
Is Warding Flare to give disadvantage on that one? Sorry.
That's 16 plus 12, and that's a natural 1.
Yes.
So he goes and turns around just in this wild-eyed savagery, just whips around his flail, and he goes towards Bramble, and this light just blinds him eyeless. He cannot see, yet it singes his flesh, and you begin to smell dog hair. Bramble, you respond for that moment.
Bramble's like his life was flashing before his eyes, and when he sees the light coming out toward him, he thinks he's seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then he realizes, oh, that didn't hurt. It must have been Garandan.
The gnoll next to you licks its lips, and yes, you are not out of the tunnel yet. That is the end of the round. Top of the round, Felthrin. You are prone. You hear the sound of the demons coming. What would you like to do?
They're all within 5 feet of me?
Yep.
Okay. So if I tried to move, they'll all...
Yeah, you can see the situation. That is the challenge here.
All right. Well, he'll stand up and swing at him then. So I got 3 hits.
So 46 points of damage. You tear through them. They're still coming. They're still moving.
I think
You've whittled down their forces a little bit.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
gonna have to action surge then to try to do it again.
Okay. That one disappears. That swarm disappears, and this swarm gets taken down. Gets taken down a little bit. More coming. You've reduced the challenge. Nevertheless, they still persist. Bramble, one Knoll at your back, escaping with your life. Where do you want to go?
I think Bramble's pretty much consumed with Yinagu in front of him. He's vaguely aware of sounds of distress going on around him, but he's focused on Yinagu. So he's going to take a strike with Queen's favor. Okay. I rolled bigger than 6, so that's good. 25 to hit. 40 slashing damage, finding a weak, and then he will, the spot that he found, which is his right calf, 4 acid damage. He's gonna call out that spot. Again, using the help action, the next attack has advantage.
Yinagu is going to use a legendary action. He's going to try and swat you away, Bramble. He's going to make his attack a natural 20. You got anything for that?
I can reduce the damage by half.
Okay. All right. Well, it's going to be just the 15 times 2, so 30 points of damage.
Okay, so he'll use his reaction to make it a bit of a glancing blow, although I imagine it still pushes him back.
And you have to succeed on a strength save.
DC 96 or something.
Yeah, it's like 24.
About 10. Does 10 work?
5, 10, 15. You only get swatted away right past Garandan and land over at the side of Garandan. You're now out of melee range of Yinagu. However, you can see that he's swinging his flail wide and he can reach you easily at this point. Next up, Bramble, unless you had something else you wanted to do, it's going to be Zarion's turn. Please make your death save.
It's the Coatl.
Oh, Coatl. I'm sorry. Yes, Coatl.
So Garandan, seeing Bramble fly and Zarion down, he's gonna telepathy to the Coatl and tell it to get in the bag where Zarion is and cast Cure Wounds, and give him 14 points of healing. He's just gonna wrap around Zarion inside that bag and heal him.
My name is Blessings, and I am willing to do what you ask. In the name of Arcadia, I fly. The Coatl zips forward over, and Zarion, you see this large bird standing over you, and it sheds a tear of heaven, and it drips down, landing on your parched, dried, bloody lips. You taste the sweetness of heaven, and it reminds you of something you've had before. What does that taste?
Tastes like honey, but with a cinnamon. Familiar.
14 points of healing to you, Zarion.
All
You're
right.
brought back to life. The Knolls, believing you bound and tied, as I previously stated, are looking elsewhere, and they don't seem to notice your healing taking place, though this celestial being is present. The Coatl's turn has passed, and it is now Zarion's turn. Oh,
Animal shapes.
okay.
I'm going to turn into an eagle.
All right. Like the Coatl's feathers, you begin to sprout eagles, and you have a flying speed of 50 feet. Your movement still has to take place, so if you would like to move, otherwise you stay here locked away in this bag as an eagle.
What I want to do is I want to move away from where I'm at, definitely, and move behind the creatures surrounding Garandan and Bramble.
Okay. Next up. Hey. The angel. Go ahead.
In a booming voice, I call out, "Scribe, write the things which you have seen, and the things which are, and the things which will take place after this." And then I point over to where Felthrin is being besieged by the things, and I just fire 4 more Eldritch Blasts at them, starting with the closest. They're all going to hit.
Yep, they do.
So 39 total.
Yeah, and indeed, Banks, mouth agape, presses his spectacles up against his non-existent nose and says, "Oh, indeed, I'm writing it all down."
balance is coming.
Funny you should say that. For at that moment, you hear a stomping. You hear an old familiar voice. Infernal Legion, hold the line! Archduchess Zariel on deck! And you see Captain McCormick leading his platoon, moving forward in battle, their halberds in place. The abyssal, demonic monsters begin moving away from Felthrin. They begin pulling back and looking towards this infernal army marching, and Zariel stomping ever so angrily as if her tenant just hasn't paid the rent yet and it's already 15 days overdue and the grace period has already expired and she is coming to collect what is rightfully hers. She sees an angel standing forward and stops short as soon as she hears the balance is coming. The Archduchess has arrived. It is now Garandan's turn.
So hearing Bramble before he went flying, say about a weak spot, he's gonna cast Guiding Bolt at 8th level. So he is going to attack Inigu with Guiding Bolt. With going for 20, right?
With advantage.
Yes, I got a 22.
The way you said it.
My blessing if I wanted to, but it's 4d6 plus 8 levels, so 7 levels, I guess. So it's another 7. So
You do not need my help. Blast away, Champion of Holiness. Guiding Bolt at 7th level.
8th level.
8th
So it's 1 plus 1d6 per level, so it's 7 levels up. It's 11 dice. So I'm at 23, 28, 34, 39, 41, 42, and radiant damage. And whoever hits it next gets advantage.
Kneecap begins singeing in flames. By the way, the fire elemental's flames still lick and burn. For Inigu has not taken the time to put it out. And such a small thing that should have been taken care of begins to burn and singe up his fur. And the side of him is now completely burning away his skin, and his fur melts off and you see his skeleton underneath. And then he takes a blast of radiant energy from Garandan and he jolts to the side and he takes a legendary action to bite down upon Garandan. That's going to be a 20 to hit you.
That hits.
With 14 points of damage. His bite can reach Bramble, for Bramble has not left. This is giant, horrible knoll. 20 to hit Bramble as well.
Can I use the Coatl reaction plus 5 shield?
Yes.
So plus 5 AC Bramble from the Coatl's reaction.
Does that make a difference?
Yeah, it's a miss now.
It's a miss. The Coatl, turning its attention away from Zarion, who is now safe in flight, extends a wing, and the wing takes the brunt energy of this bite attack. The feathers just fly off the Coatl, and he begins to laugh and sing songs that you recognize from the Alabaster Temple. And as the wing pulls away, we see Bramble's innocent face, his curly brown locks matted with blood, blasted, his skin still burnt from the sun of Avernus, the red, sickly haze. And indeed, at that point, at the bottom of the round, the sun begins to rise, for it has been nighttime here in Avernus, a horrid time of darkness, a horrid time of loneliness and corruption, in which the wisest of scholars and the purest of souls walk away affected. And as this red sun just crests over the horizon, the 9 suns of Avernus begin to provide that red light glow. Felthrin, how do you respond before you take your turn?
Felthrin is grateful for the light and then quickly reminded that this is not the kind of light that he's used to having benefit him. So it's kind of this real brief moment of hope, and then it's back focused to the task at hand, because he wasn't sure what he thought might happen, but then he realized that no, this is not an aiding light. This is just daylight in Avernus.
Bramble, the light, how does it affect you?
Between being sort of saved some damage in the last couple of, I guess this round, it's been a long one. And then like the timing of dawn, Bramble has a moment of like, I guess, hope that's not tainted by doubt and fear. He's feeling Moradin's light even here.
Zerion, as the 9 suns that you are so accustomed to seeing rise day after day, month after month, the long nights have ended. How do you respond?
It's day already, huh? Hadn't noticed being locked and being tied up and beaten. Too focused on battle. I swear this is going to take its toll on me after I'm finished with this one.
Hey, in your new form, this is the first time you've seen the 9 suns. But you know what they are, and you know exactly where you're at, almost as if you have a download of the planes in the universe in your memory. You have a memory of yourself as Hay as well, so considering all that, what do we see when you have your eyes reflected by the warm red sunlight?
I take in a deep breath and I say again in a very booming voice, "It is as it should be. Night turns to day, turns to night. Balance." And he takes the sword with both hands and pushes it forward, He-Man style. and then just it prepares himself for the next round of action.
And Garandan, as the holy light of Moradin and Lathander leave your fingertips, that light disappears, leaving behind a smoking cinder that was once Yennegu's kneecap. The red light crests over the horizon of Avernus and meets your cheek. How do you respond?
So Garandan's mind is quickly cast back to when he first started adventuring with these friends, these sojourners, and it was at the Temple of Light as the morning, as the sun came up and he started playing the bagpipes, and he just remembers that moment and that hope that filled him then, and this light shining on him just breathes new hope in him again, that whatever it's been, however dark it's been, we're going to get through this and we'll get through it together.
Zariel, the alabaster-skinned, ball-headed warrior that was once a champion of the balance, brings Moonglow's broken body in the crushed celestial form. She brings in shackles, Talos, from the balance, formerly bound. And then you see a large witch approach, her headless body stomping forward. Well, well, well. And immediately Zariel silences her, knocking off her minotaur's head, says, "Be quiet, Mad Maggie." Yennegu roars and looks at Zariel. Zariel rushes towards Yennegu in a flight. Her black wings unfurl and she brings down her mace and the warhammer, the battle axe of Moradin. And she takes down the 6 remaining hit points that Yennegu has and cleaves his body in half. The axe comes down, splashing at your feet, Garandan. And Zariel looks at you and nods and says, "You still make a fine soldier, Garandan." She swings back and whacks Noel in the head, sending him back into the abyss. The Coatl takes advantage of the situation and begins ringing out blessings. Finishing up this battle, Felthrin, please embellish how you are indeed successful in surviving this harrowing adventure.
So Felthrin was feeling a little hopeless, and then he heard Hayes' booming voice, or Angel Strike's booming voice, and it just ignited him again. So he raised his hammer, and you see arc flash past and just brush, like kind of run across the top of the hammer, and it glows brighter. And he just whirls, and he's just smacking.
Mm-hmm.
And he's crushing these creatures, trying to hold off the hordes, and honestly not aware of what's happening with the rest of the game, because he's been surrounded by these guys, and hoping that he could get free and go destroy Yeenoghu, but fighting off this horde.
And Bramble, how do you finalize these moments in combat as victory is at hand?
Bramble's mind has been racing, and seeing Yeenoghu fall, he takes a breath for the first time in a while, and his focus wanes, and he looks around and sees the Gnoll corpses and the maw demons, lying all around, and his friends still standing. And he's not quite ready to celebrate, because he's still a little bit unsure what's going to happen next. But there's definitely some elation just under the surface.
Zarion, you are in eagle form at this moment, and you saw the whole thing transpire. Zariel, your mother, supposedly, came through and just tore asunder Yeenoghu, finalizing the battle. The rest of her devil forces mopping up what little remains Felthrin had not yet wiped away. How do you respond in this moment of victory?
Thank goodness that thing is dead. Should have cut it in half again. It's about to sell me off back to Mad Maggie.
And you do see Mad Maggie. Her hands are bound, her headless body hanging in shame, and many infernal soldiers surrounding her.
Well, this is a turn of events. I'm glad I went with these guys. Sure enough, if I would have stayed back, I'd have still probably been being a slave. Somebody else would not. I'm glad I stuck with it.
No one seems to notice your absence as you're flying over this scene. And it was such a long time ago, it seems, that you were in that shop, and you made that split-second decision to go with these sojourners. You are still an eagle at this point. What do you choose to do?
I choose to return to my normal form and walk up to Zariel and have a chat with her.
And, hey, how do you respond to the situation, seeing these infernal creatures mop up these abyssal creatures, two of your sworn enemies now fighting?
Well, I haven't forgotten. I have this lingering awareness that I have something in banishment, and so I point with the sword, and I don't know. Let's say that the ground where it banished, where the slug disappeared, scorches, and I again boom out, "Beware, it returns."
And indeed it does, and you launch a final assault, and for the first time in thousands of years, for it has been a while, an angel leads the charge, and devils follow. You hear a voice from the scrying orb say, my, what an interesting sight this is. For I, Bel, have not seen angels and devils fight against the hordes of the abyss for thousands of years. Reminds me much of you, Zariel. Much of you indeed. This is turning out well for me. The slug, the Krokatoic, the pet of Yenagu with nothing to protect it, explodes in noxious odor, leaving behind a landmark that forever memorializes this scene, for devils dissipate in annihilation as the blast explodes, leaving pockmarks of craters and sludge. An abyssal swamp exists here forever in Avernus. And it was so, scribes Professor Thaddeus Banks. Garandan, at the end of all this, with gnolls and demons falling alike, some devils falling in battle, suffering annihilation, and Captain McCormick chanting on, "Come on, you mug slime slaggards, you toe-flopping idiots, let's move on out. There's no greater valor than falling in battle and having the discipline to stare your enemy in the face." And he slops off a gnoll's head and it rolls to the ground. "Back to the abyss, you hordes!" Watching all this, Garandan, how do you respond?
So Garandan absentmindedly reached into his pack and pulled out something and was kind of picking bits of stuff out of his big gray beard, and it was all red smeared. And then he realizes it's the tuning fork that's attuned to Bonzarel. And he, "Hey, who's ready to go home?" And kind of that's extends it. "Hey, Zarian, you coming with?"
Zarion.
Yes, I am. I'll tag along as I reach in and grab a few good berries out of my pack and start eating it like popcorn.
Your health points do indeed go up. A great use of good berries. With Mad Maggie in custody and Zariel, I would like to see how Angel Strike, the Solar, completes this chapter. Garandan and Bramble and Felthrin, bloodied, bruised, gather their friend Zarion and prepare to leave for Bonzarel. But hey, how does this story wrap up for you?
Seeing the group gathering around Garandan with his tuning fork, it seems as though something calls through the mental haze. Has a moment of clarity where he says, "Felthrin, Garandan, Bramble, Zarion, you fought with me. You have restored the balance. I bid you farewell." And then he just takes a knee and plunges the sword point down into the ground and then just freezes into place in a sort of vigil.
And as you do so, lightning strikes from Arcadia, summoning back to your plane. Talos looks up with longing in his eyes and says, "Farewell, brother. The celestial forces are here again. Balance has been achieved, for with your death, there has been your resurrection." The air held itself still, and silence lorded over the field, save the fluttering wings of Professor Thaddeus Banks. He writes upon a floating scroll with breakneck speed. "They stood strong, with Zariel, Archduchess of Avernus, and for love or lust, for anger or madness we know not, but sincerely for devotion, they lacked none. For on her side stood the few, the sojourners of another world. The entire sum of their lives lay before the mighty demon lord, and the sweat and the blood of their fealty bathes the desert floor of this most sacred ground. The ground yawns open, and with the blessing of the Most High Lord Asmodeus of the Nine Hells, this land receives their offering of valor, the offering of Bonzarel." The imp pauses and shivers with reverence at that last phrase. He stops there and drops his quill into the ether and says, "Yes, yes. There it shall end. For this is where the story concludes." And so for now, our story concludes. This concludes Sunday in Avernus. Thanks to all who have participated and made this story happen. And as always, may your story continue.